I used to work at a local health club. I saw an article that said Michael's tired of taking the physical abuse from Detroit Pistons. All right, opportunity. I'm gonna write, there's 15 players on a basketball team, no response. Then they call me. They give me an address. I drive out there, ring the doorbell. Michael Jordan opens up the door.
He is not a trainer, he is the trainer.
Who is that person that MJ picked? Tim Grover.
The one and only Tim Grover. Take me back.
Both my parents are of Indian descent, very hardworking individuals. My parents couldn't afford babysitters. Well, guess what? My brother and I got to go to work. My dad did. Kobe was the only individual that Michael referred me to outside of the Chicago Bulls.
Wow.
And I said, okay, I need you to get rid of this, I need you to get rid of this, I need you to get rid of this. And he's just like, it was shocking to him. I've always been a competitive individual, but I was that short, fat kid.
Yeah.
I knew I had talent to play basketball, but when I was in college, a lot of the high school players used to come in there and I said, let me go play this kid one-on-one. Man, he beat the brakes off of me. Okay, playing is not gonna happen, but I could increase my intelligence in training athletes.
If we were to ask Michael Jordan, what's the greatest thing Tim Grover taught you?
You know, one of the things that he always told everybody on his team was, everybody has trauma in their life. Everybody thinks that that dark place is a bad place. It's not. Darkness is your bridge to greatness.
Hey guys, welcome to this very special episode of the Passionate Few podcast. It's your host, Omar here, and today we have a very special episode as we sit down with none other than the CEO of Attack Athletics and best-selling author of Relentless and Winning, trainer to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and most important, a peak performance coach who's spoken all over the world to help you maximize your life and business, none other than Tim Grover. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
What's happening? A long time, man. You've been trying to do this for a while. Got it done.
Yes, sir. I'm glad we were able to make it happen.
It will. It'll be worth it.
Yes, sir.
We've been trying to get this done for a long time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
About half a decade, man. But if there's anything I've learned from you, it's the power of being relentless.
Yes.
And so, fortunately, we're able to make it happen here in Chicago.
Yep.
So thanks so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
So Tim, let's get right into it. A lot of people know you for what you've trained world-class athletes on. You've had an amazing story yourself. But talk to me, before the Michael Jordan, before the Kobe Bryant, before these world-renowned athletes, before the books, all this, take me back. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? And where did the whole Tim Grover story begin in terms of your mindset to achieve?
Well, I grew up, I was born in Wolverhampton, England. But my parents, we came over here when I was 4 years old. So Chicago's pretty much been home. And, both my parents are of Indian descent. Very hardworking individuals. Mom, nurse practitioner for well over 40 years. Dad was a professor of anatomy and physiology. And what happened was when we came over to the States, my mom was able to get her license because nursing was at a major shortage, so that wasn't a problem. So she actually came to the States before my brother, my dad, and myself did. And then when my dad was trying to get his credentials to transfer so he could teach in the States, and they didn't allow that. So they said, he's not qualified enough to teach in the States. So my dad's always been an individual that figured it out. So he said, all right, well, what do you have available for me as an occupation or as a job? Because he wanted to stay within the medical system, and they said, well, the only thing we have right now that you qualify for, what they used to call a degreaser. All right, the term for a degreaser is people that have physiology and anatomy classes and so forth. You have cadavers and so forth. Now remember, we're going back into the late 60s, early 70s. And they didn't have all the technology that we have now. So after anatomy and physiology class, each semester, each quarter, you have to dispose of the cadavers. Well, it's not a garbage truck that comes by and just toss them in. Yeah. So, and they usually weigh about 400 or 500 pounds because of all the formaldehyde that's in there to preserve during the classes and so forth. So my dad's occupation was, after the anatomy class, to take all the cadavers, however they have, and dismantle them. And when I mean dismantle them, I mean dismantle them. Like chop off the legs, chop off the arms, chop off the heads, do all the other things, and throw them in the furnace. And burn the ashes. That's how they dispose of cadavers back then.
And how old were you at this time when your father?
Well, when I knew, I was 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, man.
And, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of money. We didn't have any money. My mom worked the night shift. My dad worked the day shift. So anytime there was time off of school or something like that, there was no babysitters. You know, my parents couldn't afford babysitters. So that's why they had the schedule going that way. And so during the daytime when we were off of school for holidays or whatever it is, my dad was working. Well, guess what? My brother and I got to go to work with my dad. And we got to see what he did.
Yeah. At that age, did it build a sort of emotional resilience in you, or were you too young to be like in shock of the furnace?
You know what?
thing? You know what I mean?
No, you know what? It's crazy. There's some things, you know, people don't remember a lot of stuff about their childhoods and so forth, but there's certain things that just stick with you. They're just embedded in you, and how you see it pretty much determines what kind of mindset you're going to have. And it doesn't matter whether it's 4 years old, 40 years old, whatever it is. When you see something and how you relate to it, how you see that picture, what you see through that little keyhole that's going on, and how you react to it, and how you watch the other person, how they react to it, determines your mindset.
And then so after that, you grow up, you and your siblings, you know, see your parents going through all this. How does it start to translate into your mindset, and where do you start to sort of separate yourself? Did you get into sports and channel that competitiveness into that, or like walk me through like what happens next once you start having these experiences as a
I've
kid?
always been a competitive individual, but I was that short, fat kid. You know, I was extremely overweight.
Grover was fat at one point?
Grover was fat, but I was even at a heavy weight, I was athletic. I could still move. I could still do things. I just didn't look like it. So, you know, everyone goes through the teasing process and all that. Back then, listen, all right, somebody tease you, you tease them back. We didn't really take it. It was more slapstick fun. Than it was personal, you know, because everybody looked a certain way, everybody looked different. But you accepted everybody for who they were, and just playing different sports, excelling in school, seeing the work ethic that my parents had and how important education was to them. And you know, you come home, homework first, before you turn on any TV, before you eat, before you do anything, the homework has to be done. And you know, that the discipline of being able to do those things and having to be on a schedule, because one parent worked at night, the other one worked during the day, being able to shuffle everything, you see all those things, and you develop this structure, you develop this competitiveness, you develop this focus. You start to learn very early how valuable time really is. You know, when you have two parents that work and they work different shifts, and you get to see how valuable the time is, how they made every single moment count when they spend it with each other, when they spent it with my brother and I. You get to see those things. So I learned very early how to structure my time, how to get everything done, how to get the focus, how to be competitive in sports. You know, do you know how much time to get your homework done? You have a certain, you know what time dinner is going to be on the table. You don't get dinner unless you get your homework done. You don't get to participate. You don't get to practice in your sport until your homework gets done. Until everything else, whatever chores had to be done. And then you know, you finish those things off, teaches you focus. And I got out. You know, back then, you listen. Every kid played baseball. Every kid played football. Every kid played basketball. You had a few kids that played hockey, but those were pretty much everybody played those three sports. And growing up, I was like, yeah, okay, I was decent at baseball. Football, I was decent. Basketball, I was kind of like, hey, I probably excelled a little bit more at it than the other sports. Played on a high school team. Fortunate enough to play at the collegiate level. Good enough to make the Hall of Fame for my school, and but knew I was not good enough to make any money. And that's another thing that you have to realize what your talent is but are you intelligent in your talent? All right. So I knew I had talent to play basketball, but my intelligence was not the same as I thought my talent was. So I was like, okay, I need to pay less attention to my talent in basketball because that's limited, but I can increase my intelligence in training athletes, being involved in basketball, I still want to be involved with professional athletes. So I was like, okay, playing is not going to happen. I tell this, I don't know if I've ever told this story before. When I was in college, we used to have, I used to go to school, and a lot of the high school players used to come in there because it was such a large campus. And I remember Tim Hardaway. This is senior, not junior. And he came in and he was just shooting around in the gym, and I said, let me go play this kid one-on-one. Man, he beat the brakes off of me.
Yeah.
He was like, I think he was like maybe 15 or 16 or 17 at that age. I mean, he just literally destroyed me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Hurt your ego, huh?
Yeah.
Motivated you.
I was just like, all right, these guys are just at a different level. And he wasn't even a pro then. He was a high school player.
Right.
He was a high school player. So like I said, these memories that people have, these obstacles, these things that are bad for them, they don't want to talk about them, or they have a tendency to push them in the back when those things actually make you who you are. They make you this competitive individual. They make you this resilient individual. They make you this intelligent individual. They make you this person. They make you this all these different things that come in there.
Would you say it's part of like the dark side? Would you say?
Yeah, it is. Or people like to. What I always say when we talk about the dark side, there's a lot. Everybody has trauma in their life. And I'm not talking about. Some people may be physical, so it's emotional, mental, whatever it is. You're going to have it throughout your life. It starts off early. And how trauma may be a strong word for it, but how you deal with that trauma.
It's what you do with it. Yeah.
Yes, it's what you do, because most people take that trauma puts them in a dark place. All right, everybody thinks that that dark place is a bad place. It's not. It's your place. That's where the learning begins. That's where the growing begins. That's where your education begins. I say that the darkness is your bridge to greatness. If you can take yourself there physically, mentally, and go into that space, no matter what age you are, and understand that's where actual growth is, because it's just you against you now. It's just you against you, and every kid's had this struggle. Every adult is having this struggle. Every teenager has this trouble where you worry about acceptance. Well, unless you can accept yourself, if you accept yourself, all of yourself, now you can grow. You can start to grow. You can start to excel. But if you don't accept, it's not going to happen. And when you're in the dark place, you have to accept yourself, otherwise you're going to be stuck there forever.
Yeah, 100%. Would you say that's something that you noticed as a common denominator when you worked with athletes like, Jordan and Kobe? I know Jordan is famous for always gambling, or always having like a vendetta, or making it personal, tapping into you mentioned people say he's got cut from his high school basketball team and he fueled that. So would you say that's a common denominator you noticed that fueled a lot of them? Obviously there's a lot more of the action, but was there a lot brewing there in your personal experience?
Yeah, so what happens is with a lot of individuals, you're 100% true on that, Omar. What happens with a lot of individuals when they have all this trauma come in, or physically, verbally, whatever it is, when somebody trash talks you, whether they're teasing you, or they say you're not good enough, you're not strong enough. It's all fuel. It's all fuel. All right. But most people don't know how to burn that fuel. So it just builds up in the body. It just builds up. It builds up. It manifests physically. It manifests mentally.
Yeah, negative self-talk sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The greats, when they talk about, everybody says, yeah, that's my fuel. Well, it is your fuel, but only if you use it and burn it, because it's more coming, there's more coming, there's more coming.
Right.
All right? It's just like any vehicle that's out there. You can have it. We do a lot of flying, and when they're flying, a couple of flights, they were like, well, we can't take off because we have too much fuel.
Right.
I had never heard that before. Like, we can't take off because you have too much fuel. Well, if you think about it, if you constantly have all these negative stuff, what people think is negative, and you keep saying, it's my fuel, it's my fuel, it's my fuel, it's my fuel, but you never burn it off, you never use it. Well, if that plane can't take off, you can't take off.
Right. Yeah. And would you say like a lot of them were driven by that more so than even, because I'll give you an example, because I heard sometimes that even Jordan would like, people say in The Last Dance that he would even make up vendettas, or he would like dramatize things that happen. If someone, talks shit to him on the court or something, that he would come out swinging. Would you say that's a common denominator, that sometimes it becomes a handicap in that they need the dark side a little bit, or they're so fueled by it?
It's never a handicap. It's not, because what they can do is they can control it. It's only a handicap if you can't control it. And what happens is, you see a lot of individuals now, the way you can tell an individual if they can if they have control of the darkness of what's going on inside them and able to use it for the fuel, they have the ability to go from an extremely high and come back down. They can go high, come back down. Like, they can make a great play, they can beat you, but they're right back in the moment.
Yeah.
They're right back in the moment. The people that can't do it, when something goes bad, they stay down. Yeah. And then the next play goes bad, the next play goes bad, the next play goes bad, goes over and over and over. Very common in golf. Very common in golf. Then, or you have the other person that gets on such a high because they made a spectacular play, and it could be 3 minutes into the game, and they've never been able to come back down to achieve that high again. That's where you don't have that control. So it's what you talked about. You got to have that internal fuel, and you got to have that external fuel. So basically, it's like being in a 2-passenger vehicle. All right, you're driving. All right, but sitting next to you is either your ghost, your skeleton. There's something that's sitting next to you that knows you better than you know yourself. And that individual is constantly testing you. That's the one that's constantly when you talked about Michael and how he used to manifest things and have bro, well, that was the individual I was talking to. Hey, you remember back when so-and-so said, and even if it wasn't true, or if it was just a little bit, and that would just be like, it would just get him. And most people are like, I don't want to hear that. And he's like, tell me more. He's like literally having a conversation back and forth with the individual that knows him better than he knows himself. And that's you.
I love that.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to this video in a sec, but first, I have a quick question for you. Given that the e-commerce industry is growing by the trillions year over year, have you ever dreamed of owning your own e-commerce business like many of the guests we've had on the show, but maybe you feel stuck on how to start? Well, if so, you're not alone. The truth is, starting and setting up your own online store can be incredibly time-consuming, complicated, and get expensive. Not to mention the hassle of researching top products and staying on top of market trends that make you money. Lucky for you, that's where today's sponsor, StoreBuild.ai, comes in. With StoreBuild.ai, you instantly get a free custom-built, AI-driven store loaded with 20 winning products and a custom theme that can help you generate sales. All you need to do is head to StoreBuild.ai, enter your info, then simply sign up to Shopify for free, choose your store's look and feel, and voila! They'll send you your custom-built store ready to generate sales. The whole process is lightning fast. Whether you're just starting out or want to grow, StoreBuild.ai makes launching an online store easier than ever. So why wait? Visit StoreBuild.ai, and in less than 5 minutes, you could have the e-commerce business you've always dreamed of. Thanks to StoreBuild.ai for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the show.
And I know it's been asked, but I gotta ask you, because a lot of people wrote in, and some people may know the story, may not. I'm sure you've been asked a million times, but first question I gotta ask you about Jordan is, can you talk about the day where you went to get him as a client, and when you made that decision, like, hey, I want to train this guy?
Well, it wasn't my decision to train him.
Right.
So we went through back then, I used to work at a local health club. I saw an article in the newspaper said Michael's tired of taking the physical abuse from the Detroit Pistons. All right, opportunity.
How old are you at this time?
Oh my goodness. Probably like 20, 21. Mm-hmm. I excelled through school very quickly.
Right.
Yeah. I graduated early. I don't really like to share that story with a whole lot of people, but what I did was I said, you know what? I'm gonna write letters. Remember back then, no emails, no texts, you can't do that. You had to physically write a letter, go to the post office, put a stamp on it, mail it. So I said, I'm gonna write. There's 15 players on a basketball team back then, and I said, I'm gonna write 14 letters. I'm not gonna write one to Michael because he's so good, he's so talented. They're never gonna let me work with him. So I put the letters in. And back then, what they do is you get. It gets thrown into the player's locker because it's fan mail. They put it, you put the person's name, they just put it in the locker. Whether it's up to the individual whether they want to open it up or not. So I wrote all the letters, and no response. Then the athletic trainer and the team doctor during that time, they call me and say, we have somebody who may be interested in your services. I'm like, okay. So for 3 months, they're like, listen, we need to see you on a regular basis. We want to make sure you know what you're talking about. So it was like, they just drilled me with all the questions and and all the different situations about training athletes and medical, physiology and anatomy and kinesiology and statistics and all kinds of stuff to make sure I knew what I was talking about. I mean, and when people say, hey, schooling isn't important, schooling was extremely important for me, extremely important. And so after 3 months, they were like, okay, here's an address. We want you to go meet the individual. I had no idea who it was.
Are you thinking in your head at this time
And definitely not him.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely not him. I'm thinking, okay, they're grooming. And I had never even thought about him, but I studied all the players. I'm like, okay, back then you watch TV, you watch different movements, you watch all these different, and you're like, okay, I was ready for whoever it was.
What year is this? Do you remember?
89.
Okay. Wow.
It was 89. So they give me an address. I drive out there, and ring the doorbell, no answer. Ring the doorbell again, no answer. Ring it a third time. Michael Jordan opens up the door.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'm not a starstruck person. Never have been. And never have been. So okay, the first thing that came into my mind is like, I'm wearing Converse. And I'm like, all right, do I go into this house wearing these shoes or do I take them off? I'm like, all right, you know what? I said, if I take them off, I got holes in my socks, in the front, in the top, and the bottom. Remember, I'm working at a local health club, not making a whole lot of money back then.
Yeah.
And kids back then, you didn't care if you had holes in your socks. Who's going to see them anyway?
Right.
I was like, all right, it's better to go in the house with the holes in the socks than it is with the Converse. So I left the Converse at the door, walked in the house. We went downstairs, and I let him do the talking. I said, hey, what's the plan? He goes, man, I want to get bigger. I want to get stronger. I want to put on about 20 pounds because I'm taking all the physical beating. And I just said, he goes, what are your thoughts? I said, I don't agree with what you want to do. And he just kind of looked at me.
Wow.
And he goes, well, I've already talked to a few other people, and they was like, yeah, we could do this for you. And I was just like, I said, you want to be a better basketball player. You want to be a better athlete. I said, you have some nagging injuries that constantly happen. Between your knee, your groin, and your ankle, which is very common for an athlete that explosive. So I said, what if we take care of those things first? I said, guess what? You'll automatically be stronger. You'll automatically be faster. You'll automatically be more athletic. You'll be a better basketball player. I said, if we address those issues first, because I said if we put on all the weight, then those issues are going to become bigger issues. So the little problems are now going to become the big problems.
Right.
And I just said, you do not want to put that much weight on that soon. I said, we want to go increments. I said, we want to go about 3 to 5 pounds a year if we can. And then if you feel comfortable at that weight, then next year we'll try to add another 3 to 5. And then in the next season we'll try to add another 3 to 5. And he goes, well, what weight should I be playing at? I was like, I can't tell you that. You have to tell me. I said, that's why we go in the little increments.
Right.
So you can say, this is where I'm best at. He goes, this doesn't sound right. I said, well, it don't get any righter. And he goes, all right. He goes, I'll give you 30 days. 30 days turned into 15 years. And literally on the 30th day, when the first day was literally, we started the next day. So when I was walking out of the house, he just looked at the shoes and looked at me and said, never again. So my first purchase was a pair of Nikes.
Yeah. Wow. And when you're in this moment, are you like shitting bricks? Like, are you nervous? I know you said you weren't starstruck. You were just 100% focused.
No. Yeah, just, that's what I'm saying. Everything, how my parents taught me to handle situations. Was I perfect? Absolutely not. Were there times when I was a child where I saw things that freaked me out and scared me out? Were there times when I was teased and I was hurt, I felt bad? Were there times where the teachers called me out on things and I didn't have the right answers? All right. Well, I didn't go running home to my parents and said, hey, the teacher stood me up in front of the class and asked me a question and I didn't answer it, and all the kids laughed and she had me standing there and she's like, well, parents, no, you should have knew the answer. You wouldn't be in that. You wouldn't be in that situation. You're like, you know what? He goes, did all the kids know the answer to that question? I'm like, yeah, they did. Then how come you didn't?
Yeah, so it was like tough love. Yeah.
Like, no, I won't even say it's tough love. It made sense.
Right. Yeah.
The reason you're in that situation is because
you deserve it.
You deserve it.
Yeah.
All right. They didn't create the situation. If you knew the answer, you wouldn't be doing it there. All right. So, and that continued in college. So when you meet somebody over there, I don't like to talk about my story. I want to hear his. In order to help somebody, I need to hear your story. I need to know what you want to do.
So there was no part of you in the back of your mind that was like, God, maybe I can't handle it. Maybe second guessing your own wisdom. You were just like,
never.
Dude,
I was prepared for that. I was prepared for that moment.
Clean.
I 100% prepared for that moment.
Yeah.
I would have never sent those letters out if I wasn't prepared for that moment.
100%.
Be careful what you ask for, because once you get it,
you got to pay the bill for it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: what do you think if we were to ask? I've never heard you ask this question. I've never heard anybody ask you this question. If we were to ask Michael Jordan, what's the greatest thing Tim Grover taught you? What do you think he would say? Were there any things that when you taught him, he'd be like, "Oh, I like that one, Doc," or was there anything in particular that he really gravitated towards that you feel that when you taught him, he really hung on to that?
You know what? With him, we learned a lot from each other. So I can't say there's one thing that would stick with him. I think it was multiple things that we did together. One of the things that he always told everybody on his team, meaning his personal team, was, you better keep up. And I kept up. All right, and I knew where he was going. And when he meant kept up, doesn't mean just like at work on the basketball court in your education. It means in life. He's like, I'm going. And if you want to be a part of this ride, you want to be part of this journey, you better keep up. So as he improves as an individual, as he improved as a human, as he improved as a basketball player, as he improved as an athlete, as a businessman, as a family individual, you had to improve. You had to. Your skills had to go up. Your mentality had to become a little tougher. As he got more competitive, you had to become more competitive. As he challenged you, you had to challenge him. If I had to say one thing, it would probably be that I never backed down from him. So I mean, we'd had some heated discussions and
yeah. I'm sure he had a lot of yes men around him too. So it wasn't common for him to have somebody who wasn't afraid to kind of go toe to toe.
Yeah, you know, listen, everybody's got yes people around them, and I always say, be leery of the individuals that are always trying to be nice to you. They have an agenda. They have an agenda. People that are consistently nice to you over and over and over and over again. They're not willing to tell you the truth. They got an agenda. They got an agenda going on. We pay so much attention to our enemies that we forget to watch our friends.
Very true.
Yeah.
I love that. And take me back to the time, during the run where you're working with Jordan, you're developing him as an athlete, both in mindset and physical body. I'm sure, like you said, you're leveling up too. What would you say was the greatest challenge or way that you grew as a person, as a trainer, as a professional, through that experience and through that time, particularly during the Chicago Bulls championship run when he was on top of the world? How did you grow the most from that?
Each year, whether you win or you lose, all right, you had to get better, and you knew you couldn't do it the same way. So it was a constant challenge. It was a constant challenge to make yourself better, to figure out different ways. As an athlete got older, after he played so many minutes, after injuries, all these other things, just being able to constantly be able to figure things out, and figure out ways together to say, hey, how can we make this better? Because I always say this, after one championship, you can't come back the same. You can't come back with the same team. You can't come back, same team, I mean the same players. Something has to, they make a few changes. They may make a change in the coaching staff. They may make a change among the team. It may, as minimal as it may seem, you need to have that something
variance.
Difference. You have to have that. You have to have that variance in there. And then same thing with the training and the mindset. Something has to constantly evolve. That's why in sports or even in life, it's very difficult to repeat those wins over and over again, because people say, "Well, I did it this way, and I need to do it the same way." No, you don't need to do. You can keep the same identity, but something has to change. As small as it may be. So with mine, it was constantly. We would pay attention to things that, with all my athletes, and even when I talk to different business people, we pay attention to details that nobody else pays attention to. I was just like, well, what's one of the most common injury in basketball? Well, sprained ankles and jammed fingers. All right. Nobody was paying attention to the ankles and fingers
back then. Yeah.
Back then, I don't even know if they do now. We had a program that we did religiously for the ankles and the fingers, religiously.
What's up, Rockstar? Listen, we'll get back to the video in a sec. First, quick question. Are you an entrepreneur making $20,000 per month in take-home profit or more, but feel stuck growing your brand or business? Well, if so, you're not alone. The reality is that growing your business can be incredibly challenging, especially without the right support, experience, strategy, and accountability in place to help you get there. So if that sounds true for you and you've been looking for some help, I have some exciting news. The Passionate Few has officially opened our one-on-one consulting programs to help people who are serious about taking their life and business to the next level this year actually do it. But this is only by application and it's on a first come, first served basis. So we're only looking to work with entrepreneurs who are committed to taking action,
don't make excuses and really want to see their vision materialize. So if you'd like to learn how we've helped people go from $20,000 a month to over $200,000 a month in take-home profit, and how we've helped dozens of entrepreneurs around the world do the exact same thing, well, now you can find out. All you gotta do to apply is click the link in the description below, answer a couple questions to book a call with us in the next day or two to chat, and we'll see if we're a great fit to work together. Thanks so much for watching, and now let's get back to the show. And when it comes to the winning mindsets of people, because I know you speak all over the world, you help executives, but both athletes look up to you, a lot of people in business look up to a lot of the philosophies you share. Would you say those are the common denominators of the cleaners or people at the highest level of performance, the attention to detail over time?
People always say, don't sweat the small stuff. They sweat everything. They sweat everything.
Yes.
My perfect example is when you were setting up this room. Everybody had to be meticulous.
Right.
It has to be meticulous, because in your mind you can't perform at the highest level if you know that one thing is off.
That's right.
You can't. Everything has got to be. That's where your focus comes in, knowing you paid attention to every single possible detail. And then what happens during that is you can control what you can control, but what happens, it makes the uncontrollable more controllable. You can't control the uncontrollable, but if you control everything you can possibly control, the uncontrollable is coming. It's coming. But if you're so busy controlling things that you should have controlled, when the uncontrollable comes, it's totally out of control. When the uncontrollable comes now you're like, okay, I have clarity here. I don't have chaos anymore. I have clarity to deal with the uncontrollable, and I can manage it much better than if I'm still in the chaos state.
Yeah, no, I love that you say that too, because I read a lot about Kobe being so attentive to detail that he would even text Michael about like, hey, when you do this move, how did you do that? Like he was still from when he was, just getting in the league at 18 or 17, I believe, to even years later, that he was so attention to detail, asking questions about littles that never got comfortable.
You can learn. You can learn how to use a move.
Right.
You can teach. You can go out there. Any basketball coach or any skilled person can teach you how to do a move. The attention to detail comes in beyond this, when to be able to use that move.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between knowing and knowing when to.
Yeah. And I believe I saw a quote from you talking about your famous 3 C's of people who are either coolers, closers, or cleaners.
Yeah.
And you talked about, I forget the quote exactly, but something to the effect of like, coolers know what to do and think about it. A closer will think about it, analyze it, and then take action. But a cleaner just knows what to do and when to do it.
Right.
So I'm curious, when did you develop that sort of philosophy on coolers, closers, and cleaners? And what made you sort of realize that, this is really the best way to sort of segment the way people can think in terms of framing?
Well, it's funny, when my business partner and co-author and agent Sherry and I were writing the book, Relentless, we needed something to tie this together. I had come up with these different traits and so forth, and I don't remember the whole story, but I remember I was sitting in my facility back then, and I don't know if I called her or texted her. I think she was at her son's football game, or I don't know where it was, and I said, I got it. And I had to tell her during that moment, because I would have forgotten. And I said, here are the traits of the individuals. Here's the names. This is why. Because I used to watch MJ, and he was just different. And I said, and they would say, when they go through a basketball game and the highlights, and say, oh, he's Michael closed out the game, or he did this, and I'm just like, man, I said, you're insulting this guy when you put him in the same category as everybody else. So I had to come up with a different term with it, and the cleaner mentality comes from preparation. It puts you in that, what people like to call flow state or the zone, but it takes the no think area, but it takes years and years and years of thinking, of trusting your instincts. Well, what's the next level? You do years and years of thinking not to be able to think. Because if you're thinking during that moment, you're not present. If you're thinking on the basketball court, the other individual has the advantage because you're not present. So when you do repetition over and over and over again, you no longer have to think. You're in the zone. All right, and you get to the point where, you don't have to trust your instincts trust you. And that's the routine over and over and over again. When you look at the top performers, everyone has a routine. They all have routines. All right. Well, people have two types of routines. All right. And both create comfort. They both create comfort. So you have a routine out of boredom that creates comfort. You do the same thing over and over and over again. These are the same people that, another day, another dollar, sun up, sun down, whatever the cliches are.
Right, yeah.
I'm not a cliche person. But the routine it makes them comfortable, but it's out of boredom. Right. Then these individuals, the successful individuals, the ones that pay attention to all the details, the individuals that we call the cleaners, in any aspect of life. And this is not about money. This is about being successful at whatever you do. These people have a routine out of skill that creates comfort. And what do I mean by a routine out of skill? Every single day they're practicing something, they're working on something over and over and over and over and over and over again. So what happens is that skill becomes second nature. It becomes second nature to them, and they're comfortable in that skill. They have mastered that skill. So once you've mastered that skill, now you don't have to think about that skill anymore. You don't have to think about that moment. So now they go on and go master another skill.
And it compounds.
And compounds over and over again. But what's extremely important is people think after you've mastered a skill, you no longer have to practice that skill. Oh no, mastery is only temporary. It's only temporary. So you have to always come back to it and make sure that you've mastered the most basic principle over and over again, and then continue to build on that, and always remember to go back.
I love that. And it's funny, on that note, we have a mutual friend, Paul Rodriguez, a professional skateboarder, who actually talks about this cool quote about what got you there will keep you there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and we all see it, right? A lot of professional athletes get to the top, they peak, #1 draft pick, whatever it is. They, get in the league, they do well for a couple seasons, and then they sort of fizzle out.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, it's like, even Kobe at his peak was still showing up early. I saw a thing with, LeBron's in the playoffs right now. Now they're going to be playing the Warriors, but that he got, they had a game at 6:30. He got there at 2:30, and he was shooting hoops before. Would you say that, when you see these top professional athletes, and we'll translate it to business in a sec, but would you say that that is the most common denominator of what really separates them over natural ability? Is it the consistency over time? Is it, what is it that really separates them?
It is, they understand that hard work, it doesn't guarantee success, but not working hard will. Yeah, you get lucky here and there, but they don't want to be praised for working hard. They don't want to be praised for doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. They have no problem. They have no problem if they lose, but they have a problem if their effort wasn't there or something was off. They're the individuals that they constantly will tell you, don't tell me to try my best. I'm going to go do my best. There's a huge difference between trying your best and doing your best. People that try their best give themselves an out. That means you give yourself an effort out. I tried my best. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah. Did you do your best? So these individuals that are constantly getting there early, going through those going through those skill routines, going to the place where they are regularly comfortable, and getting themselves into the area where they don't have to think. They know they always go out there. They're not trying their best. They are doing their best in everything they do, doing their best to prepare their bodies, doing their best when they are working out, doing their best when they're watching film. They're doing their best when they're recovering. They're doing their best when they're with their when they're with their families. They're doing their best when they're in those moments alone. They're not trying to do their best. They are doing their best each time.
Yeah. No, and it's powerful that you say that. There's a great expression. It says, "The man who loves walking will always go further than the man who loves the destination."
Yeah.
Because the man who loves the destination will stop when he gets there, but the man who loves walking will just keep going, because that for him is the greater high.
Right.
Now, when you sort of look at the landscape of, a lot of people know you for what you've done, not just with your business and helping people in sports, but you speak all around the world to top executives, and people fly you out all over the world. What are the things that most business people or people in life in general ask you about aside from sports that you think is the biggest misconception they have about truly living up to their potential, right? So what is it you're asked the most, and what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about what it takes to be their best?
The top individuals, they're always looking to get better. That you can take an individual who has a lot of growth, who has a lot of, and you can show exponential growth on that individual. When you have an individual that's already at the top, and they're looking for just that little piece, a little bit more. So what I do with those individuals, and when I talk to them, is just like, okay, I need to know everything. I need you to be honest with yourself. I need you to be honest with me, because then we can find out. Everybody thinks, well, I need to add this. Well, what do I need to add to get better? Well, before we start adding some stuff, or before we start adding some more, what are the things that we need to delete?
So self-awareness.
Yeah. So let's take some things, because what's going to happen if you constantly add, and on, you're going to have all these things that you don't need anymore.
Might not serve you.
So let's figure out what no longer serves you. What can we delete, so we know what to add in that circumstances, in that place here. We just don't want to constantly add things. And it's very hard for individuals. It's much easier for individuals to hold on to. It's a lot more difficult for individuals to let go. That's why you see a lot of people, they stay in situations just a little bit too long, because they don't have the ability to let go. The best of the best have the ability. They know a cleaner knows when it's their time to walk away.
Yeah, and it's the emotional strength too. I know you talked about it. I was doing some research before our interview, and you talked a lot about the difference in how people who actually perform are not held back by emotions as much as most people, right? Most people are emotionally fat before they're ever physically fat, right? And so they numb it through that medium. But talk to me a little bit about, because I want to get into the Kobe thing. A lot of people say Kobe was kind of tough, or very tough, similar to Jordan. And it touches on, this ability to be incredibly focused in one area because all of your emotion, your spirit is in it. But people would also say that they're emotionally unavailable in certain other areas. You talk a lot about this concept of the fallacy of balance, right?
Yes.
And the importance of being sort of selfish. I believe there's a quote that says, the most philanthropic people in the world, that are the most charitable in the world, had to be incredibly selfish first to build themselves up to a point.
Without a doubt.
To give.
Yeah.
So two-part question. Number one, how did you connect with Kobe, and how did Kobe sort of embody that sort of spirit? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, MJ actually connected me with Kobe. So, Kobe reached out to MJ and said, listen, I'm having issues with my, remember Kobe came into the league when he was 17.
Right, Lower Merion High.
Yeah, when he was 17 years old. And so when he had reached out to MJ, he had a lot of wear and tear on his body. And it's funny, what we just talked about earlier, this is a great segue into Kobe. So Michael said, hey, he goes, I'm not using my guy anymore because Mike was already retired. He was like, why don't you give him a call? Why don't you give him a call? So Kobe reached out to me. We had a conversation. I flew out to California. It was funny. Kobe was the only individual that Michael referred me to outside of the Chicago Bulls.
Wow.
Otherwise it was always take care of his players, took care of Scotty, Ron Harper. We taught the Breakfast Club. Those were those three. So he reached out, and I flew out, and I met with Kobe. Now with Kobe, over the years he had done so much because he was like, I have to outwork everybody. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to keep. That's what got him there. That's what made him so successful. So this is where the deleting process came in. I said, okay, let's see what you're doing. Let's look at everything. Let's look at everything. I said, okay, now we need to take. I need you to get rid of this. I need you to get rid of this. I need you to get rid of this. And he's just like, it was shocking to him. I was like, no. I said, all this has to change. I said, this particular program, this particular methodology, this no longer is what you need. These are the different areas that we need to focus in on, so forth. So I said, in order for you to get back to back to being completely healthy, going through all these different things, it's no longer about the increase, it's about the decrease. It's about the elimination. It's about getting rid of stuff that you've outgrown, that you don't need anymore. It was a new concept that, for individuals that are so driven, you tell them, I don't need you to do this anymore. And they're like, no, I can't. And one of the adage was like, hey, listen, spend more time recovery-wise. Let's have your body not move as much as it used to. Let's eliminate some particular exercises and get you thinking in a different way than what you're accustomed to. And it took us a while. I mean, he fought me. He fought me, but we got to see the end result.
Yeah.
So.
And who was more emotionally flexible, if you will? Or were they both pretty emotionally like tunnel vision and sort of like tuned out other stuff? Or were they similar in this?
They were very similar.
Like, I guess, how were they similar? How are they different emotionally?
So, I mean, emotionally, they were both extremely focused. They were both obsessed about what they wanted. They were extremely obsessed. They weren't interested. They were obsessed. Huge difference between interested and obsessed. Some people are interested in winning championships, interested in winning games. Interested. They saw interested as a hobby. When you're obsessed, there's a huge difference. So, but what they were able to do is, people think when you become obsessed, you can only be obsessed of one thing throughout your whole existence. No, obsession, and this goes back to knowing what you control and what you can't control. You can be obsessed with multiple things at a time. All right, but not during the same moment. So when you're working out, you're obsessed with your workouts. All right. When you're at practice, you're obsessed with your practices. When you're at film session, you're obsessed with thing. When you're in your rehab, your pre-care, whatever it is, you're obsessed with all those things during that time. And that's the difference between focus and time, because people that think about time, all right, they're not obsessed, because they know obsession makes you use all of your time correctly. It makes you use every single second of it to its maximum capability. People that people that are managing time are more looking at the clock. Oh, I got to do this. I got 30 minutes more here. I got to go over here. So then they go from one obsession to the other. When they're with their family, when they're with their kids, they're obsessed during that moment. Now, does everything take equal amount of time? No, this is where the balance comes in.
And the selfish balance, yeah.
Yes, all right, and each of the things, one thing both those individuals had, and even the business people, you have individuals in this room, and this is important for you. You have individuals that are selfish for you. All right, you have to be selfish for yourself, and people think of selfish as this. It's a label. You tell an individual, listen, I'm going into my office. I don't want to be bothered for an hour. Right? Oh, he's so selfish. He's away from his family. He's doing this. He's not doing.
Chasing money.
He's doing all this. Well, what's the difference with an individual that says, you know what, I'm going to go meditate for 20 minutes in a quiet room by myself. Oh, that's so healthy for you. It's good for you to get. It's so good for you to get away. That's what you need. You need your me time. Well, there's no difference between the two. There isn't any. All right, that may be your form of meditation. That may be form of the way you recharge. Wound people don't like to be unwound. They just don't. So you have other individuals that are selfish for you that understand your personality, understand your addiction, understand what's going on, and they'll be like, they'll be the ones that, hey, leave them alone, or it's time for you to go do so and so. So they're selfish. They're selfish for you. And they both had those individuals with them. And then when you talk, going back to the obsession and focus. The obsession and balance is not everything you're obsessed about throughout the day can have the same amount of focus, can have the same amount of time in that focus. So but you get to decide that. People are always telling you you're out of balance. You don't find balance. Nobody else can tell you to find balance. You create balance. And when you create balance, just like you create happiness, you create greatness, you create a relationship with your individuals, with your team. You create relationships with your significant other. You don't find that stuff. You create those things. So just like balance, you have to create balance. And once you create that balance, all right, then you get to decide how things are balanced. All right, and the scales, are they always going to be perfectly balanced? Absolutely not. But when other people tell you you need to find balance, now what happens is they're tipping the scales for you because they're adding all these stuff. You don't have somebody that's being selfish for you, or you're not being selfish for yourself. So now you try to add all these different things, and now the scales are just going crazy all the time. So when you get to decide what your balance is, what you get to create, you get to decide how that scale gets to tip. And are there moments with the individuals that are extremely obsessed? Yeah, where the scales are just like this, but they know the scales are just like this. They know what the rewards are. They know what the consequences are, and they're not going to second guess themselves. This is where the team concept comes in. So when you have an individual who, when the balance is all the way off, when you have those individuals, or that one individual that's selfish for you, they will keep the other things going. They will manifest and take care of all the things that's on the bottom of the scale until you return. And that's how you win. That's how you win together. That's how you win with that individual or individuals that understand who you are. And once those individuals help you with that balancing and shifting, they know that they're going to be part of every single win that you have. It's no longer just about your win. They know when you win, they win. They know when they win, you win.
And this is true as a team, in business, in a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, it's about winning as a team. I love that. And then when it comes to emotions, right, a lot of people have guilt, right? They say, well, hey, I want to go to my office, but people are pulled in many different ways, right? I want to work on this. Oh, but my wife needs me, or my significant other needs me, or the kids need me. So
I'm going to stop you right there. You just say, very few people, guilt isn't about you. It's somebody else's guilt that they've put on you that now you manifest it as your own. Very few people feel guilty about, you may feel guilty about something that you did, but most of the time when you feel guilty about something, it's somebody else's manifestation that they've put on you, and now you feel guilty about what they've told, what they want you to do, and you understand, well, that's not me. That's not who I am. Most people that hold the guilt, it's not your guilt you're holding. You're holding somebody else's guilt that becomes your thoughts, becomes your actions, becomes your reality. So be careful what guilt is, because when other people like to get rid of their guilt by throwing it on somebody else and say, hey, you carried my guilt around for a little bit. You got to deal with guilt. You got to. One of the things in the book Relentless is you know exactly who you are. All right, and the next step to that is people that don't make you feel guilty. All right, they know why you're that way. Okay, you know exactly who you are and why you're that way.
Yeah.
All right, we have so many people with the books of Winning and Relentless. When they read it, they was like, now I understand myself. And I always tell them, you know what it is? If you're in a relationship or you're with an individual that doesn't understand, I don't understand what, make them read the book. And they'll be like, now I get you.
Yeah.
Now I get you.
The power of self-awareness for self and others. How do you recommend people who are listening to this going, shit, I love this, but I want to put it into practical action? People who've, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years plus, a lot of us pick up emotional baggage, whether inherited, assumed, accepted from culture, our upbringing, what we're supposed to do, etc. What practical step-by-step tips would you give people on how to build that sense of emotional strength to be able to navigate things like guilt, self-awareness, time management, being selfish, because it's really people's emotions that get in the way of a lot of their discipline and things like that.
Sure.
So what practical things do you recommend people do? Obviously working out is one of them, but on a deeper level, what advice would you give to people? What are the KPIs to measure, hey, am I getting better at my emotional management?
Well, certain decisions, you have to know when to turn your heart on and your mind off, and when to turn your mind on and your heart off.
How do you know that?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many decisions that you make with your heart that you know you should have made with your mind, and there's so many decisions you should have made with your mind that you made with your heart. And if you literally sit down and analyze those decisions, you'll know, I made this one with my heart when I should have made it with my mind. I made this one with my mind when I should have made it with my heart. And now if you can start to put that puzzle together and say, you know what, I can't do that anymore. That decision has to come over. That decision has to come over here. This decision should have been more with my mind. Yeah, this one you know what, I let this one go because my mind, this stopped me, and I should have been listening to my heart. The tougher decisions as they come in, the individuals that win on a consistent basis over and over and over again, people always say, oh, they're ruthless, they're cutthroat, they're this individuals. No, you know what they are? All right, I call them heartless, but not what heartless what everybody's going to think of. All right, they use their heart less. They know they've mastered. Well, I won't say you can master it. They know what decisions have to be used with their mind and what decisions no longer have to be used with their heart. That's why you see, major corporations and the CEOs, and this is never a good thing, but he's like, I got to cut X amount of jobs. Right? He or she, they, whoever it may be, they don't feel good about it. That's not like, they're like not going, oh, celebrate. I just had to let go of 1,500 people. All right. But that's a decision that they've know that, like, listen, I've reached this pinnacle. I've reached this thing. This is a mind decision. It's not a heart decision. And what I look at is, you want to know, everyone's looking for a practical step. If it was practical, everybody can do it. Just like, like if you pick up a book that tells you 6 steps to this, 7 steps to that, everybody knows those steps are infinite.
Right.
No, those steps are never going to change. I look at break yourself down. Like Lily, break yourself down. Put all the pieces on the floor, on the table, whatever you need. Everything that everybody's put on you or everybody's tried to lay their guilt on you, or physical, emotional, whatever it may be, whatever somebody said about you, all that, just positive, negative, lay it all down because it's a part of you. All right, now start picking the pieces up that you only want. That you only want. And then, everybody says, I want to be this person that's whole again. All right, well, once you're broken, it's very hard to be whole again. It's really difficult to be whole again. All right, but if you pick up those different pieces and you say, I'm gonna take this piece, I'm gonna take this piece, I'm gonna this piece, now you get to decide and become who you want to be. Now, you may have all these empty pieces in here. Well, that's where that other individual or that other team, they fill those pieces for you.
Yeah. I love it.
The things that you left behind that you didn't need from this other individual or this trauma or whatever happened in your life or at this particular moment, whatever happened, you find that other person to fill those voids for you. Fill those voids for you.
Yeah.
And that's how you grow as a team. That's how you grow as a business. That's how you grow in a relationship. That's how the skill set constantly evolves, because you get to pick and choose those pieces all the time.
Yeah. What about people, because I love this, it's really rooted in a lot of self-awareness that I think so few people really take accountability for. What for you, I'm curious, what for you personally has been the, I guess, biggest emotional challenge for you in terms of, obviously a lot of people know you for being a tough guy in a good way. But also, I'm sure that there's lots of things, whether rooted in your past, ambitions, things like that for you, that even I'm sure are even challenging for you. So could you maybe share, an example or two of maybe things that were difficult for you to emotionally manage, even at your level, that people could hear, and how you sort of overcame that? Is there anything in particular that sticks out? I just want to get the vulnerable side of Tim Grover, so to speak, because there's a lot of people out there that are inspired by your stuff, but they're like, yeah, easy for him to say, but on a human level.
It's not, well, this is, the information I'm putting out here, it's the truth. And people don't want to talk about the truth. Everybody talks about, I would never miss out on this particular event with my family and and so forth. That's their guilt putting it on you. All right, so things happen. All right, I've missed. Did I want to miss stuff? Family event? No, I didn't. But I had to make certain decisions during those particular times that I felt was best for where I was going and where it could ultimately benefit the family and the individuals I wanted it to benefit with. All right, and you have to have the results to prove it. You can't second guess your decisions. Will every decision be absolutely right? No. And I would say there's no such thing as a tough decision. They're all decisions. They are all decisions. You just have to make them. You have to go execute. Being able to build your resiliency is going to determine pretty much everything. Pretty much everything. Your resiliency to what others say, what other people think, what you think about yourself, your doubts, your guilt, your addictions, whatever it is. Your resiliency to those things allow you to be that individual that can be vulnerable and open only to certain people, though. You have too many individuals. When you open up to too many individuals, and when you talk about the most successful individuals out there, all right, they confide in very few people. They confide. Earlier we talked about everyone's looking for their enemies and looking for their. Be careful who you associate with from a friend standpoint. Just like as you get older, you outgrow your clothes. You no longer fit in the same shoes. You no longer fit in the same clothes. Even as you get older, sometimes things shift. well, you outgrow the people that are around you. You know, you may outgrow, that doesn't mean they still can't be your friend anymore, all right, but they no longer can be your ally. And there's a huge difference between friends and ally. I do have a strong emotional side, but only with a select people that get to see it. You have to earn the right to see that emotional side. I don't give keys to individuals that don't deserve them. You know, we talk about.
I love that. Yeah.
How do you know if that person is right? How do you become vulnerable to another individual? Well, this goes back to the deleting process again. All right, I ask this question all the time. All right, who has a key to your heart and shouldn't?
That's huge.
Who has a key to your thoughts and shouldn't? Who has a key to your emotions and shouldn't? All right?
It's powerful.
So in order to be vulnerable to that person, you gotta, who are you giving those keys? Who has that key?
You got to take those keys back. Yeah.
Well, I would just say get rid of the keys and make it a combination.
Yeah, and only give it to a select few.
Only give it to us, and you give it to the select few that get to earn it. And when they no longer earn it again, you don't have to. You just change the combination.
Keep the key. Won't work anyways.
Keep the key. Okay, and then that's you know how you keep everything going and how you keep everything exciting and spice and all that other stuff, and you keep that fire going on when in your business, in your life, in your relationship, and so forth. You know, you grow as an individual. That other person grows. You change that combination a little bit. You change one of those numbers, and you make that other person earn that combination again. That way, you never get bored with each other. You never get bored with what you're doing. You know, the combination to winning always changes. The combination to relentless always changes. The combination to loving always changes. The combination to success. The combination to a relationship. The combination to wherever. It should be constantly be evolving. It should be constantly be evolving. And each time you should be able, like, you got to go out and earn that. You got to earn those digits.
Yeah, oh, that's powerful. And then, dude, Tim, thank you so much. This has been phenomenal. Before we wrap up here, we play a quick game at the end. But the last question I have for you is, you know, moving into the landscape of 2023, going into 2024, you've spoken all over the world at events to some of the biggest businesses in the world. You know, millions of people consume your stuff online. After all these years, what are you still driven by, and what are you most passionate about sharing with the world these days? Because you must be driven by something. You've already given so much to the world, but I'm curious, what keeps you going? What for you is the juice that you enjoy serving
you know what?
People with?
Everybody, I'm not motivated. All right? That is because motivation has a shelf life. You know, motivation is what somebody else pours into you. And I've had so much poured into me throughout my years that I've been able to consume, I've been able to fuel. I'm at the point now, I don't want people to go, I want them to go beyond motivation. I want them to elevate. I want them to elevate, because elevation is what you demand of yourself. It's your ability to light that internal fire. You know, people talk about chasing their dreams. All right. Well, motivated people chase their dreams. Elevated people actually capture their dreams. So what I want everybody to be, I know motivation is such a big business out there, and listen, are there times where everyone needs motivation? Yes, they do. But if you can turn that motivation into elevation, then the onus, then it becomes about your fire, what you want, your desires, your ambitions, your goals. And then once you can take care of yourself, the better you take care of yourself, the more you can take care of everybody else around you.
Yeah, because your cup's overflowing.
Yes. Yes. And you get to constantly have that nurturing to keep it overflowing. You don't have to constantly be pulling it from other individuals, because if you want that cup to constantly overflow, then you can't. You have to create so much energy for yourself, because you have to give it out to everybody else. If those individuals outside of you are constantly creating that energy for you, well, then you're just giving that energy back to them. Mm-hmm. You want to create that energy for yourself so you can energize them more to pursue whatever they want in life.
I love that, brother. That's incredible. Now, before we wrap up here, we play a quick game, and the game's called First Things First. Right. So the way the game works is I'm just going to rifle off a quick word or phrase, and then you just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind in relation to it. Make sense? The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know about it. I'm not. We'll see.
All right. So first one is, what was your dream when you were a kid? And like, what drove your dream as a kid?
So I'm going to use one word?
Word or phrase that comes to mind.
What drove
your dreams as a kid?
The monster under my bed.
Biggest piece of advice you'd give the young version of you who was looking for answers, being on this side of the fence?
Don't waste your time with the young version of you. You can't change the past. You can't change where you came from. You can change where you're going.
How someone can move from a cooler to a closer to a cleaner.
Stop letting other people write your story for you. Become the author of your own story.
What holds most people back from taking ownership of being self-aware?
Themselves.
Why?
All right. Because people they're running from themselves. We're all in this chase for something. Mm-hmm. All right, we're all chasing something, whether it's love, fulfillment, gratitude, greatness, money, whatever it is. We're always chasing. Everybody's chasing something. All right. Well, before you can chase and catch whatever you want to do, all right, you got to find out what's chasing you and deal with what's chasing you. And most people are running from that. So if you're constantly running from it, you're never going to be able to truly capture what you want, because you haven't dealt with what's chasing you. You need to have that conversation with that, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, stop running from it, face it, acknowledge it, saying it's a part of who you are, accept it, and figure out how that can become a part of your team instead of dividing yourself.
Mm-hmm. What about the biggest limiting belief you've had to personally overcome?
Limiting belief that...
Has Tim Grover ever had limiting beliefs?
You know, know the difference between doubt and fear. Know the difference between doubt and fear. Doubt is something you create. Fear is an instinct that propels you, that tells you to go get what you want.
The biggest difference between Jordan and Kobe, from your vantage point, because you got a front row seat to it.
One had 6, the other had 5.
I love that. That's so good. All right, so to go a level deeper, in terms of the psychology, the killer instinct, so to speak, what was the biggest difference between Kobe and Michael Jordan?
I wouldn't say they both maniacal, obsessed in the same way. MJ had things that would take him away from that. He loved golf. That was his recharge. You know, to be able to sit in front of a TV. People know about the automobiles that he drove, how impeccable dressed he was, those different things. Kobe was basketball winning business. He didn't golf. He didn't have nice cars. I mean, he had nice cars, but he didn't have
collection.
That's the word that's how I was looking for. There was no hobby. It was basketball business, and obviously both of them. There was the family structure was strong in both of them, but it was just those things. He was just his obsession about what he was doing in that moment was just that was it. He didn't have an outlet or a release. Yeah, he just didn't. I mean, you don't but you got a chance to see that once he retired. You know, that's the winning of the Oscar and doing all these different things, and the business aspects started where he was manifesting all those things. But every decision he made was somehow brand related, basketball related, icon related, something to do in that mess.
Were they more obsessed with the game or progress?
Well, they knew in order to everyone wants to progress, but the joy comes in the win, so you can continue to progress. I mean, you enjoy. Let's say we're happy about the progress. Everyone's happy about the progress, but the real fulfillment and joy, you have to have those wins. As small or as big as they may be. We talked about this earlier, where you had mentioned it earlier about, you know, the man that walks, or the person that walks. The
man who loves walking will get further than the man who loves the destination. Yeah.
Their mindset was a little different, you know. And I talk about this in the book Winning, where everyone talks about it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Oh no, it's a sprint inside a marathon. It's a bunch of sprints inside a marathon where the finish line is constantly changing. It's constantly changing. You would never see, could you imagine, you know, you have the ad, this is, you know, we've seen this all over social media. Kobe was sitting at a game and somebody was heckling him and he did, you know, did that. You think that video would have ever existed if he'd have done?
Yeah, no.
But that, for most people, that's where progress stops. Here. For him, it was. And if he could have kept going, he would have kept going.
Yeah.
So it's you have to, in order to understand. If you want to continue to progress, if you no longer want to be motivated by your progression and you want to be elevated by it, there has to be that finish line. There has to be that win. And that finish line constantly changes. Just because you get to the finish line doesn't mean you can't have another finish line, you can't have another finish line, you can't have another finish line. You know, like I said, I'm not a big cliche person, and this one, every time I say this one ends up coming back with a lot of stingers. People always say it's about the journey and not the destination. Well, why take the journey if you don't know where the hell you're going? All right, you can't. It's just like when people say, "Let's go." All right, you pull out your phone right now and go to one of the direction apps. All right. And when it says point A to point B, put in let's go and see where it tells you you're going.
Right. Right.
All right. Well, it has a start point. It has an end. It has a start point. It has an end point. You enjoy the journey. You know what the journey's going. You know what the journey's going to give you. All right. For the people that just talk about the journey and not the destination, they're managing time. They think time is endless, and we know time is not endless. Mm-hmm. All right. People that go through the journey and know where the destination is, they're managing focus because they know time is not limitless. Mm. They get to the destination, they enjoy it. It might be their final destination. They enjoy it, then they move on to the next destination because the focus never stops, and they know time is constantly against them. It's not with them.
That's beautifully put. Now, two more. So, what do you hope people who read Relentless, read Winning, study your work, go and apply to their life right away? Like, if people want to learn and implement some of this stuff, what would be, Tim Grover's best advice, step 1, 2, 3, on how to start making their life work?
If I'm an individual, I don't tell you what to do.
Okay.
All right. I don't tell you what to do. All right. You already know what to do. Mm-hmm. You already know what to do. You have to go do it. Mm-hmm. All right. And I'm not an individual that tells you, all right, what to see. Mm-hmm. I tell you where to look. Mm-hmm. And then you determine what you see. Because we can look at something and look at it totally different ways. So if I'm telling you what to do, then you're seeing my picture. I don't want you to see my picture. I want you to create your own picture. I want you to create your own story. If you want to rewrite your story, you rewrite your story. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. It's not supposed to be easy. But if you look at all the times that what we talked about early, the trauma and the darkness and all that other stuff, if you understand that's where your biggest growth, those were your biggest growing moments, you can still use those things now. Mm-hmm. You just have to acknowledge them and understand that it's a part of who you are. And that's where the healing comes in. That's where your next success comes in. I'm not a steps individual. I can't do that. All right. Mm-hmm. That's why I said, your whole life people have been telling you what to do. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You already know what to do. Mm-hmm. You already know what to do.
It's just a matter of doing it.
It's just a matter of doing it. We write. People talk about every diet book out there. Mm-hmm. Every exercise program works. But no one's losing a pound. You're not getting in shape by just reading the diet book. You actually have to actually put it into action, and that's where the difficult part says. Most individuals love to tug at a person's heartstrings. Mm-hmm. And that's why they tell you their stories about themselves. As when we talked about this, the most difficult part about this podcast and this episode was actually me talking about myself. Mm-hmm. Right? That's extremely difficult for me. So I'm not an individual that tugs at a person's heartstrings. Mm-hmm. All right. I want to rip your heart out of your chest so you can actually look at it, study it, and understand what is making this thing beat. Mm-hmm. That's why I said when you look in the mirror, people always say, look in the mirror. No, it's what you don't see in the mirror. You can't see what that heartbeat is going on, what makes it flutter, what makes it skip a beat, what makes it excited, what makes it slow down, all this other stuff. And if you realize that it's how much control you have mm-hmm. over what that thing does, mm-hmm. you have that control. not somebody else's. We have too many other people. When people tell you what to do, they have control of what that heart is doing. Mm-hmm. Take that control back.
I love that. It's profound, profound. And then the last question, you ready? When Tim Grover is dead, gone, and nothing but a pile of dust, what do you hope that your lasting legacy is? And I don't know, in what level of detail you think about that per se. I know a lot of passion goes into the work that you put out there into the world. You've been a living example of it. But what do you hope when you're dead, gone, nothing but a pile of dust, people remember when they hear the name Tim Grover?
Well, I have a little different. So if I'm a pile of dust or whatever it may be, I better tell you, boy, you better bury me 9 feet under, because if you bury me 6 feet under, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Now, you know what? Everyone talks about they want to be able to make they hope they had an impact on different individuals. Mine is, you know what? He spoke the truth. Mm-hmm. He said things that other people wouldn't say, and he saw things that other people weren't willing to see.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
My
coming
pleasure.
to share that today. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. As always, make sure to like, comment what you learned from this episode, and make sure to smash that subscribe button. And also, check out the links in the description below. If you want to follow Tim, as well as get his books, Relentless and Winning, we'll put them down there. Make sure to give him a follow as well. Until next time, live strong, live with passion, and go make those dreams a reality. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.